Right. Hey guys. Today I'm here with Emil Drago, who mastered my latest album, Pleasure Principle. Hey Emil.
Hey there to you, Rasmus. Hey there to everyone.
So we actually got in touch the first time when I had many years back. I had a little thing called the Farplane Studio Facebook page where we kind of like got a little group together this and worked on like studio advice and also had a bit of remix competitions and then I believe that you volunteered back then to master quite a few of those remixes if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. It was a couple of years ago when I just got into mastering, and the this side project of yours was quite good, and it caught up a lot of interest. I mean, there were remixers from all over the world, and we combined the forces of an artist with one of a mixing engineer and a mastering engineer. So it was like the perfect chain of events, the perfect way a record goes. And I got to master like two tracks, I believe, or something like that. And there were many other mastering engineers, quite very good as well, involved in this project. And I think you managed to release a couple of those. I'm not sure about it, but I think a couple of those remixes actually got released. You know,
Yeah, they did, and I think back then, I mean, you were kind of like in the beginning phases of becoming
yeah,
a master engineer,
very.
and then I guess I didn't really have time to manage that Farplane Studio project for a couple of years, and then I can't remember. Was it you who contacted me? Yeah, I think you contacted me and just sort of said that you were now kind of
Flying solo. Yeah,
exactly, and you have your own studio
yeah.
and it was just at the time that I was actually like looking into mastering for the Pleasure Principle.
Yeah. I don't think you had a name exactly for that for that album. At least I don't recall that. But
Mm.
it was a couple of months ago when I contacted you because I just wanted to try out new stuff and I wanted to expand my knowledge on the gear that I have as best as I can and try to work on something that is long form material because it's quite different mastering a single rather than mastering an album. So
Hmm.
it kind of fit the right time, the right moment to actually try mastering an album like yours. That was perfect timing actually.
Yeah, and it was kind of the perfect project as well because I the Pleasure Principle was the kind of project where I had uh, not many preconceptions of what I wanted from the mastering, so I kind of wanted someone to really like feel free to bring in their own flavor to it, and that was like I think I mentioned to you like early on that I was quite happy for you to just sort of like try all your
Yeah,
gear and like
yeah,
you didn't really have to be conservative um, about it, which sometimes I think like mastering engineers usually like have the conservative approach
yeah.
first.
To do like the minimum effort with the maximum results, something like that, you know. But on this one, it was different because first of all, the mixes sounded good from the beginning, and they kind of had a certain vibe that all gathered them. Like it was something very common to each track. You can hear like some tones are almost the same, but they're very nice. There are variations on it, and you can feel from the start that if the mix is good, you know that the master won't be that much of a hassle. So rather than going all creative and stuff, I was just trying to find a vibe that could glue them all. You know, something that if all the mixes have a certain touch, then the mastering also has to find a common fingerprint or a common touch to glue them all together to make them sound cohesive and to make them sound like it's a story, you know. Because in the end, you when you're writing a song or when you're composing this album, you're basically trying to fit different moments that actually put together and make a story. So I was trying to find a string of elements, a string of combinations that can tell the story in mastering. So
So we should let people know, like, what's the, like, where, like, maybe you can just say again, what is your name and the name of your mastering studio, and where are you actually located now?
my name is Emil Drago. The name of the studio is called Tides Audio, like Tides. And the site is www.tidesaudio.com. I'm actually born in Romania, but I was raised in Italy. And a couple of years ago, I came back to my roots. Let's call it like that. So I'm currently living in Romania, but I do hope, like in the next year or in the next couple of months, actually, to move back to Italy, where I grew up and where I actually feel very fond of. I actually have a house near Venice, and I would like to move back there.
I
Um,
see.
yeah, I've been here for like in the past. I've been here for like 7 years, 7 or 8 years, and I've been back and forth a couple of times because I have my family also there. But professional wise, I've been here because I have been working as audio engineer for post production facilities, and also as mastering engineers in the couple of 2 years. And so last 2 years
Mm.
I've been more involved in this because this is actually what I want to do. That's why. So I'm here in Bucharest, Romania, is the capital of Romania, and I hope I move back in Italy in a couple of months. That's the rundown for my brief story.
All right, but I'm guessing that you will aim to set up Tides Audio also, the set up the room again, so to speak,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Italy
yeah,
when you get back.
yeah. That's why I actually, for this time, I actually wanted to have a space, and in which space, in this space, all the absorption I've used, all the diffusion I've made, all these panels are easily removable. So when I'm going to move away, I can actually take them all down and take them and carry them with me to whatever I find a new spot, whether
Mm.
in Italy or whatever else. I don't know. But the idea
Yes.
is to make it mobile so I can take it away with me.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you as well, like, so you mentioned, you thought the mixes sounded good, and thank you. But I also thought that, like, I was quite happy with, like, I definitely wanted someone to bring. I mean, I almost thought when I sent you the pre-masters, which are like, well, basically my mixes before they were mastered, I felt that certainly there were some tracks that I was more happy with than others, and I kind of was hoping for someone to inject a little bit of both attitude and personality into those tracks, which I normally don't. I would say usually I'm a bit more. I think I was in an experimental phase when I made these tracks, but
Mhm.
then also that meant that I was kind of, I felt that they were a little bit all over the place. And then when I got the masters back from you, I felt that you had really found something. Like, you actually injected like character into those tracks, which I didn't really like necessarily expect, because like a mastering engineer could also apply the kind of do no harm principle, right? Where
Yeah,
you
yeah,
wouldn't really, you would maybe do corrective stuff, but I felt like you actually added stuff to the tracks. Like, there's a certain like there's a certain sheen in the high frequencies that you manage to kind of make that consistent, like across all the tracks. And
yeah.
it's something really stylish. I don't know if it's like one of your analog boxes, but there's something like common to all the tracks in the high frequencies, which even people have commented on that hear it. It's like there's some kind of like very nice sculpting of the high frequencies, which I find is really pleasing. And it's kind of like make all the high frequency details rather exciting and kind of like fun to listen to.
Well, I had to try out many things before I found something that actually fits. I mean, each track it was different on its own. On that part, you're totally right. But I was trying to find something that could give that sparkle, that sheen that you were looking for, and I find it in a couple of combinations. I find it by using the Porter grinder from Goli Audio, which is a company based in Denmark. and it's a 4-band parametric EQ, and the top shelf of that unit is really, really, really special. Actually, it's not a shelf; it's a bell. It's a very white bell, and it brings a bit of musicality also in it. You know, it
Mm,
it has that kind of thing you were looking for, a bit of that character. And I complemented it with a very nice compressor, which is like an opto. It's also very musical. So I picked for my analog side some tools that were very, very musical, then, and with which I can also open up things more. I mean, the stereo image and the spread of the elements is definitely an improvement in the mastering stage using these things. And not only that, but I also used a couple of other EQs and a couple of color tools from Acoustica Audio as well. So
mm,
it was a combination of various elements, because it was true that I was trying to find a cohesive sound for an album, but I also was trying to get the best result from that mix, you know, to get it
right.
sitting right in the ballpark, and then trying to fit it all in a story. But it's all about trial and error to find the best thing that works out for that track, for that specific track.
So when you're using, I'm just wondering, like on a practical level, when you're using both um, software stuff like Acoustica Audio stuff
Yeah,
as well as hardware,
yeah.
would you say that you are using the software more to sort of get the tracks in the same ballpark, and then use the hardware to get that sort of common sound across the album, or is it more like or is it like just a total combination of those things?
It's a combination of those things, but also I mainly use the software side of things to correct, to give an initial vibe, because I can use the pre's of certain plugins to give a certain tone and shape the tone from the start. Okay,
Mm,
but the analog side is the added flavor. Okay, I cannot make 3 dB cuts or 4 dB cuts, which is also it's insane to do in mastering, but not totally uncommon. I don't do that stuff with my analog EQs or with my compressors. I do all that corrective and balancing in the box, and
mm.
then I use the outboard gear only for the flavor. I mean, you have to bind it together, and not all the time. I mean, the chain doesn't stay the same running from track 1 to track 11 or whatever. I mean, you have to try it and see which combination fits on the track. Sometimes I actually automated a couple of parameters on EQ, and I also automated the threshold on a compressor. So
Mm.
it varies by the track. There is no setting like this is the default setting. I just throw it on the mastering, and it's gonna work magically on the entire tracks. It's not gonna work like that. You have to
Mm.
fiddle with it. You have to try to see which fits best the song, because you can easily break the vibe of a song by having too much compression or by having too much top end, okay, and then it becomes unbearable and unhearable. So it was all about trying different things, different flavors for this in order for this to work out. Otherwise it would have been a very like you said, no harm, like a no harm mastering. Just do the bare minimum, make it loud, and that's it. Sign it, and
Mm.
that's all. You have to do justice to the song as well. I mean, it's your work in the end, and if the client wants to be happy with the mastering, he has to hear an improvement, not something that is blamed or boring.
Yeah, for me, um, I think actually since I mean, I've been mastering myself, kind of, for friends and some of my own projects. I mean, usually I try to avoid actually mastering my own projects, but I do it sometimes for friends, and I I I guess maybe because of that, and maybe just also because of becoming um, I don't know, just more experienced, a little bit more relaxed. I'm these days I find like I try to actively not uh, make up my mind about what I want from the mastering, because I think creative freedom can be said to be a good thing even for a mastering engineer, so that like if you are free to explore, then you will be more kind of like, you can steer your ship like with more confidence.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm already coming to you with like, oh, I want this and it should be this loud and it should feel like this and blah blah blah, then it's like I have to second guess all your opinions. I kind of like it to be like a team of experts with different yeah, like departments of competence, and then you don't you try not to like go into each other's domain too much. Like, I mean, up to a point, but yeah, I think that was something I managed to do in this project, at least, to
Yeah,
kind of like let go.
but there are other people unlike you that just say, I want this to be this loud, I want this to sound like this record, I want the high end to be like what I've heard on the other record. And you're kind of put in a box, and you kind of have to try to please him as much as you can,
Mm.
but it's always about a compromise, because sometimes you can't do that much. You can't, you have some limitations when it comes to the mix and the mastering stage. And one thing that I believe is very important is the fact that there has to be a communication. I mean, you have to speak with the person and set some expectations, some real expectations, and see if you have, like you said, if I have a creative uh, input, if I can do my own thing, then it is great, then it's perfect, because I can experiment, then I can use different tools, then I can use different techniques, and I can make it as it can sound, but it all depends on the client, and it all depends on the communication. That is something that has to be established from day one. That is mandatory.
I think that's a really nice note to end this little introduction on. And I'm thinking like maybe we can talk again, and then we can maybe go into a little bit deeper, and we can sort of turn your camera around to look at some of the analog stuff you have. And I would be interested to talk a little bit more about your philosophy in picking your speakers and stuff. But there's quite a lot to digest for people in what we said already. So maybe
Yeah,
we'll end here, and then we can catch up
we can jump.
another day for getting deeper into everything.
Yeah, sure, no problems. That's perfect.
All right. So Emil, it's been great to talk to you, and I will
Likewise.
speak to you again soon.